Hey,
Oh,
it's Spin Round. We're back with Donnie Baseball, and we've got Mike Wallace again having another conversation. How's everyone doing today?
Morning.
Donald.
All right.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm doing great. So I will try to be a little more
Oh, you just cut
professional
out.
during the last podcast. Did I just cut out?
Yeah.
Am I back?
In and out.
Shit. Okay, am I in and out or am I in? Now I'm in?
You're in now.
Now you're in.
Okay. All right, we'll give it a chance here. I might have to change speakers to this. It'll be a crappy recording, but my apologies.
That's all right. So what we're going to talk about is what's going on in the sim, what the future plans are. But first, I thought maybe you could just give us a brief history of how we got to where we are.
Okay, I can do that. Started when I was a wee lad. Now I was pretty much. I'll tell you how we got to where we are. I'll give you the dime store story. But it started out as an Excel spreadsheet that I used to play in apartment with another guy, Pick Six King, Jeremy, that some of you guys may or may not remember. He's from very, very far back. He ran a basketball simulated sports.com for a while. We did that for a while. I moved on to Indianapolis. Part of my job in Indianapolis was to manage an intranet site. And I was like, hey, I'm bored. Maybe I'll figure out how to do this internet stuff, this interweb, however you do it, intraweb, internet, blah. But yeah, I decided to go ahead and try to put that stupid game that I kind of wrote, put it out online, learn some new things. And that was 20 some years ago, 23 years ago, I guess. And it was still an Excel spreadsheet, turned into a Visual Basic program, turned into a Visual Basic Net program, got rewritten around 2012 because it was written very poorly. I floated something out to a couple of people recently with the old layout. And I think I scared them because I said it was going to be the new layout, but it was the layout prior to 2012. So just like freaking people out a little bit. But yeah, it's just gone through several iterations, and it's getting hopefully easier to navigate and easier to play over that time. So I apologize if it's not.
Oh yeah, no, I've been around a while. I've seen all the progressions, and I think it's evolved quite a bit, but it's been segmented, so it seems very fluid. It's a natural progression of starting out based on what was available at the times, and then accommodating the new players and the feedback and all those things. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for the rest of the sim universe.
Yeah, I think part of it too was, and this is what I guess, if you've not been around the internet and computers long enough, things have gotten so much cheaper to manage and run. When I first started running.
Oh, you're cutting out again.
Oh, am I here now?
You're here now.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with this, but regardless, I'll switch to this worst case scenario. I'll just stay close over here. Sure. But what happened was things have gotten cheaper over the years. It used to be like $25 for a little site, the very small site that I originally ran. And when I first got our first shared server, it was about $1,200 or $1,300 a month. It took every bit of money I was getting from the sim to manage it. That cut down to about $600, cut down to about it off of a server. Everything that's running in the cloud now, including the database and everything, which wasn't available before, it's probably around $300-$400 a month for that. So it's not there. There's no to have what we have now, size wise, as far as pushing that bandwidth wise, probably would have cost us tens of thousands of dollars 10, 20, or probably about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. But things have gotten cheaper. We're in the cloud, and that's what we're slowly trying to evolve. That's why I'm starting to do another rewrite. So this will be, I guess, technically the fourth website rewrite I've done, and a third or fourth backend rewrite. But it really is just a matter of I had to write things initially based on cost, based on limitations to how much money and how much time we had. The good news is, as cost gets cheaper, I can rewrite things a lot more efficiently, and that's where we're going now. With I've been working with Sledge 4 on an entire front end rewrite. I've rewritten a lot of the back end already. We're in the cloud finally after years and years of running a server out of my home, which I think a lot of people would know when my internet went out. The whole game went down a few years ago, or even as early as this year. But yeah, we're getting to that point now where we're going to have a whole new front end, hopefully within the next 4 or 5 months. And the nice thing about that is it's going to allow us to start adding some new features that have been hard to do because of the limitations of the way I've had to write the game in the past.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now, I know most players know that you quit your full-time job this year to devote yourself completely to the sim. What's that been like?
You know what? I think the amazing thing is I realize, especially I've done this once before. I not quite as much as I've devoted this time, but back when I had to rewrite the sim around started the rewrite around 2009 to 2011. Some 2009, 2010, was trying, never had it. I was able to quit for a while, and I really took several months and was able to get the new website rewritten. This time it's been a lot more intense. Like I said, the good news is that we are getting things in the cloud, et cetera, but just moving things over to the cloud from the back end, I had to do a change of databasing platforms. It's been a lot of technical work. And I think that's where I don't think it shows on the front end how much work we put into the back end this year. I spent the first several months taking a lot of things that would run on the computers. You probably noticed, hopefully now, the game doesn't go down as often, sporadically, about once every week or two. The races would get backed up. That shouldn't be happening as much anymore. There's still an occasional blip, and there's still a little bit of the back end, the racing segment of the back end that needs to be rewritten. But the entire overnight process, which was the big beast that would start around midnight and run for like 3.5 hours, that's where we would bottleneck a lot of times. And I've taken a lot of that. I've spread it out over the course of the day. I've made the queries more efficient, the platform more efficient, and hopefully we don't see a lot of those gum ups. Even if the races are a little backed up, it's not that, oh, now we're 4 or 5 hours backed up and everything has to catch up. So it's been a lot of technical work. I've been learning a lot, I guess that's a good thing. I've been trying to rewrite a lot of the front end is going to be rewritten in Python. It is currently in a deprecated language called ASP Classic, which was part of the last rewrite that I didn't want to use, but I didn't have a choice really because speed. I didn't have the luxury of taking the time to rewrite it 100% correctly. I needed to get a game up. I forgot to mention this, but part of the reason that I even started the rewrite last time back in 2009 is we were up against a constraint. I guess you remember the Y2K bug. It was similar to that because we were up against
the 1 million races.
1 million. Yeah. I never knew when I first started writing this game that I would have 1 million races. And somewhere along the way, I realized I'm going to have 1 million races. So I had to start rewriting. And I tried to patch the back end initially to cover for it, and it just wasn't going to do. It was going to be a lot of trouble. So I realized it was going to be nearly as much trouble to patch it and hope that it held together with the Band-Aids and the silly putty as to rewrite it. So I went ahead and rewrote it, barely beat it. I think we were 980 some thousand when we finally hit the rewrite. So yeah, that was the big problem. This time we don't have that kind of benchmark to hit. So I don't have to rewrite it in a clunky language just to get it through. I'm rewriting it correctly. Like I said, I've been working with Sledge 4 a lot on the front end. So if I do this right, and this is the worst part about writing it like this, is if I do this right, it's going to look a whole lot like it does now, hopefully a little cleaner to the people in the front. It's initially going to look very similar. But what you'll notice is if you use it on a phone, which most people are now using cell phones to play anything because it's in your pocket all day, you don't have to send it from a computer. The last version was not written that friendly for cell phones. The new version should be a lot more cell phone friendly. But as we go along, that's the nice thing is even if rewriting something to look exactly almost like it is sounds like an effort in futility, and it can be difficult to get motivated to do. But the nice thing is when it's actually done, adding things is going to be so much easier to a person out there that knows a little bit about Python maybe and a kind of a sub language, I guess, a package called Jinja. Is we're writing previously in ASP Classic. I had everything baked into ASP scripts. I wasn't using stored procedures as often and functions on the back end because it wasn't as friendly. And MySQL at the time, everything is in a package now. Everything is in a stored procedure. Everything is in a function. Almost everything that you're going to get on the front end is a Jinja script, and it's very basic. The code between the database and the front end is very minimal. It's the new interface. A new website is going to be very stupid. And I mean that in a positive way, because right now there's so much language baked into those ASP Classic scripts. That's why it's hard for me to make changes. That's why it's hard for me to write new things, because it's this dance between the back end and the front end that I baked in because I didn't have the time to do it correctly. Now, as you mentioned, taking these several months, it's actually been, I guess, about 9 months now, taking that time and literally just spending it on the back end, spending it on the front end, taking the time and just saying, what's the most efficient way? What's the best way? And I've mentioned this probably to several people in email, and this sounds morbid, but I'm 50 years old now. I would like to have a backup to do this one day. I'd hate to think I could keel over and die of a heart attack. I mean, I guess it could happen, let's be honest. But the truth is that I need this to be in a position to where hopefully my son will take it over one day. But if not, hopefully I can get a backup and somebody that I can hand it to. And right now, it'd just be handing them a steaming bowl of garbage. I don't want to do that. I want something where I can explain, hey, this is how this fits together, et cetera. So it's this entire dance that I've been doing. And like I said, the sad news is the front end user, when I'm done with the website rewrite, some people will be like, I don't get it. Why'd you spend all this time doing it? But hopefully it'll be the several months after that. And we did over the last several months, last 9 months, to get the new viewer. So that was, that took some time as well. But no, if I feel like I'm talking a lot, there's a lot going on. So I appreciate you taking the effort to try to understand it, even though I'm not sure that anybody outside of
it's all Greek to me, but all I know is the game is functioning faster and better, and I would hate for you to keel over someday and to lose it also. So
I'm going to send you some coenzyme Q10 to make sure to keep your heart in good shape there. So that's the best backup plan we have, because I didn't understand anything you said either, but I can tell you it feels like it's running smoothly. It's going well. So I'm from the user end of it, I'm happy. Have you? It's a big step. I know quitting your job. Have you told anybody in your family? Do you still like pretend to be employed elsewhere? Or?
Now, my wife's lovely. She's been doing the full-time thing, so she's been putting food on the table, and I have had, even just finding out some players, we've had a better year this year with the support than we have in the past too. So I think people are even more generous than they've been in the past. So I thank everyone that, even if you don't support the game, if you do support the game, it really does. It helps keep it running. Like I said, we're fortunate enough to now where it's it's reasonable. It's $400 or so a month to manage. Maybe actually, a little over 400, but somewhere in that ballpark, which is affordable. But if we didn't have people that supported the game at all, that would come out of my pocket, and I can only convince the wife to let me do this, throw too much money at it. So if it was cost me $400 a month, she would probably be on me a little more. But she's been great, so the family knows what I'm up to, thankfully. But I've actually been reaching out a little more, because I'm at a good point where I do think that this is going to be rewritten. I'll probably go back to the real workforce, maybe full time in January or so. I've been talking. I picked up a couple of very small contract jobs, but I'm talking about a little more serious contract job as well that I might take up in January. So I'm going to get back to the real workforce. But Jen's been great. Anybody that remembers Jennifer, she's been putting up with me and this for, I guess if you include our dating period, 22 and a half years or so. So she's been around a while.
Cool. Yeah, no, I know from a lot of the players have relationship stories of relationships that did or didn't work based on how well the other, partner, tolerated or enjoyed the game. Sure. So that could be a whole, mini series by itself.
Yeah, it probably helped that I started this before she was around. So before I got in that relationship, and I mentioned that I'm 50 this year. I've been writing on parts of this game for over half my life now. So, I never expected when I started screwing around in my department in my free time, kind of at lunch, and writing an Excel spreadsheet and baking in some of my favorite horses and writing code, that I would be having this discussion 25 years later. So it's kind of interesting and fun, but it's, and I kind of, I guess I joke about it a little bit about being 50, et cetera, but no, this means a lot to me. I've been doing this for half my life, and I do, in a theoretically perfect world, hopefully I don't die for the next 50 years, but, hopefully in a theoretically perfect world, the game will outlive me, and people could talk about it. I know I've seen some people inside the game, there's some generational, people that got their kids playing or people that got friends playing. And now it's an interesting thing to see. I just hope we can keep it interesting, and hope horse racing doesn't get too much, doesn't raise too much ire of the public, and we can keep this going for another 50 years or 25 years at least.
So you mentioned the new viewer, and I know you made a post yesterday about when silks will be coming.
Yes.
You want to just let people know in case they didn't read your post?
Sure. I posted about 5 things out there. I threw it in rapid fire succession, but yeah, the silks, I know people have been asking about it. This is one of those, I'm still learning things. In a perfect world, I know how I would like the silks to work. And I know I've mentioned to people then when they ask about changes or some updates that they would like to see, et cetera. And right now I'm mainly trying to write things one time. I'm trying to avoid writing a lot of code in the old game, because literally I'm going to rewrite it in the new one. So the handoff there, and I'll be 100% honest with you, I need to learn a little better how to write those silks to, I guess you would call them a data lake instead of files. Right now they'd be files on a Windows operating system. I know I can write them files to a Linux operating system, which is where we're moving. But in a perfect world, I would like to write them out to a data lake that is more efficient storage. And actually, not to be nerdy about it, but they have to be there by the way we have the viewer set up and the permissions. So they got to get to this data lake. The problem is with everything else I'm trying to get done fast, it's just a priority thing. And the other stuff, that because I do have, again, to mention him and keep breaking my hand, patting him on the back, Will is really, Sledge 4 is really doing a lot. I want to give him as much as he needs to keep helping me, because he's giving free time to the game to make the front end better. And I don't want to slow him down. And part of that is I want to keep doing things to keep him active and make it where he can be efficient and helpful. I need to learn more about the way to get that upload to the data lake. And I haven't done that yet. It's a timing thing, but I do plan on trying to get that done in the next couple of weeks. That's why I said, if I don't get it written, I'm going to go ahead and just have people maybe even upload it to the old system and just kind of move them manually once until I can get the time. But that's part of the new website is 100% when the new website's done, that will be part of the new website. If it takes too long and I can't write that kind of crossover between, I'm just going to go ahead and do what I've done in the past and just have people send me the silks and upload them manually. So yeah, that's kind of, it's me learning. Still have a lot to learn about some of this stuff. Again, things are changing. Data lakes, I won't say they're new technology, but they're new to what we've been trying to accomplish in the game. It's part of that efficiency of making things more affordable in the cloud, where before I would have to keep a lot of information in databases and in file systems. And it's just a lot cheaper to be in the data lake. So things like those big silk files, that's the most efficient way to store those. So I'm just trying to think steps ahead instead of doing what I've had to do in the past, and take it a step at a time, which ultimately slows everything down and takes more time to write 2 or 3 times.
Donnie, do you have any questions?
Sure, yeah. I don't know how much this applies to any of the rewrites you're doing, but I guess a broader question about that would be, were there any significant changes in like the game logic as far as like how the gameplay will work? I'm interested in like sire ratings and how those evolve over time. And I remember
Right.
in the past, you mentioned like roughly you can correlate stud fee
Yeah,
to ability
to some degree.
sometimes on new ones, like any of that kind of thing that we should be paying attention to.
At the moment, no. Again, it's what we're trying to do, especially that's more of a back end piece. And I've rewritten a lot of the back end. The one place that I haven't rewritten on the back end is the racing logic, because I will eventually, but that is even going to be after we get the front end rewritten. And part of that reason is I wrote the logic for the game again. A lot of this stems back 25 years when I was a lot better at math. I think really, I was a math major. I don't really do math anymore. I'm just a computer nerd guy. So there's a lot of these formulas that I need to go back in, and I really need to dig back in, and I need to try to find some of the old information, because at the time, the game was written to be very one-to-one to real horse racing. I took a lot of information and I tried to take a lot of curves and things. And the thing is, and this is where it gets a little tricky, and I have to be careful with the logic here, and that's why I want to take the time to do it correctly, is that the way that the logic was originally written did really well for a universe of real horses, but people play the game in a different way than reality, and that's understandable. There's in real life, when a horse may get injured, I don't allow that in the game. In real life, some horses never make it to the track, things like that. And the thing is that in the game, you don't have some of those concerns. There's no permanent injuries. And as it goes on and people may breed more, or people breed a lot more low-level horses, and that's where, they throw them out there and see what sticks. And I don't blame them. That's the way the game was written, and people should take advantage of whatever they can, however they want to play. It's there for them to play. But the universe of the game is different than the universe of real horse racing, and as such, I might need to rethink and retweak a little bit of the logic, but I don't want to screw too much with the base logic. I do know that there are a few things I would like to look into, and I think a lot of that is based on the differences in the universes. And there's a couple of other things, but yeah, as far as any changes, until you see the front end rewritten and probably a few new additions, I'm not going to screw with the logic. And when I do, it's going to be a several month probably for task to make sure that I get it right, because that's why I don't mess with the race logic a lot. I know some people are like, this isn't realistic, or that isn't realistic, or they may not like the way that this operates. And I'm not even going to have an argument about whether they're right or wrong. Sometimes they probably have some validity. Sometimes I think, it's looking at a one specific instance and not a universe, and not the aggregated data, which is different, because you can always look at one thing. One person always wins the lottery eventually. But if you thought that everybody won the lottery because you saw one person win the lottery, that's just not true. And so you have to be careful about how you cherry pick the information you want, because I'm fortunate enough to see the data in aggregate. Not everyone is. But there are times when I think that a lot of players do have some valid points. And I want to make sure that when I go in and really test the logic, I have time to do it. The one thing I want to be careful about is when somebody says, oh, I don't like this, or I don't trust this, and this looks a little wrong. And I might be like, you know what? They got a point. But the thing I can't afford to do is go try to tweak that one bit of logic, because there's the kind of the chaos theory. If you mess with the one thing and it ruins everything else. So until I get a chance to look at the code in aggregate, I'm not really, don't want to mess with it. So you won't see me mess with it until I get the time to focus entirely on making tweaks to that code.
I actually have a fairly specific question based on what you just mentioned. The current sim 2-year-old crop is roughly equivalent to the North American, Australian, Japanese, and Great Britain and Ireland full crop for this year. Have you ever considered expanding the number of graded races to accommodate that?
Well, the thing is, I think we had plenty of graded races. Especially, considering every 2 years now, we've got another 24 popping up with the Equinix this year, or this upcoming year. And then we also have some players that buy graded races. So there's plenty of graded races. Plus, the thing that I've always kind of been ish about in the game is the travel. And this is a personal thing with me. And I know some people love to be able to globetrot, but we see things in the game that really open up graded races in ways they don't in real life, because you can travel pretty indiscriminately in the game. You can travel from the United States to Australia to Japan to England. So you can really cherry pick a variety of graded races, unlike real life, where you may be relatively regional and you can't just drive your horse from Florida to California and without really causing harm to the animal, or at least tiring him out and putting him in an unfortunate situation for racing. So the truth is that even with that, even if there was a 1-to-1 ratio in graded races, or even if they were lower in the game, the truth is the availability of the game's graded races. We see a lot more 12 and 13 horse grade race fields in the game. In real life, a lot of times you see 5 and 6 horse fields. So there's plenty of opportunity, I think, for horses to get those graded check marks when they really want them.
I like it. Yeah, I think
Sure, I do, but I always want more opportunities to win at the big level, but not everyone gets them.
Yeah. And I get it. I mean, I think that's the thing, is that I just want to be careful with the graded races. Like I said, I think the Equinix is one of those. We get those every couple of years, and it does add a lot of graded races. But I do think that part of it is that, and this is the way that the sim operates, and we can argue or at least discuss. I don't think anybody's going to argue about it, but we can discuss whether or not the travel is too indiscriminate or not, because you do have, you see people and they can move around consistently. Well, at the same time, when in real life, a grade 3 race in a small location is actually a pretty nice haul. And the sim, you can have a horse. We have a grade 3 race in Iowa. You can have a horse that ran in Australia last time to go pick it up. So you don't have those opportunities in the sim. And that could be based, I think, primarily on the fact that I don't limit travel, but I understand why I shouldn't grossly limit travel. There's a yin and a yang to it. So I'm not sure that there's a right or wrong answer, but I think part of the problem is, or at least part of the discussion on why it can be hard, even feel like it might be harder sometimes in the game to get those graded races, is because there's so many horses and they're kind of moving wherever and whenever they want to. And there's not much of a penalty for them to do that. And that's, again, I don't want to, that would be a big discussion with a lot of players, is should we limit travel? Should we make it more difficult to pick those up? I don't know. That's again, that might even be back to the whole racing logic that may change the entire way that, the numbers kind of skew. So it's a big question. I agree. There's a lot of moving parts here.
Okay, we only have about 10 more minutes left before we hit a time limit. So Donnie, do you want to ask the final question?
Yes, thank you. I do have a final question. It's a 12-part question. So be ready. No, it's not that bad. We talked a lot about things that are happening sort of on the high end of the achieving part of the game and the graded stakes races and making more availability. Do you have any tricks up your sleeve for the newer players, people maybe not as familiar with the game or not as familiar with the intricacies of horse racing, to try to keep them engaged and grow organically to be able to take on a Lenny someday or something like that?
Yeah, the one thing that as a new player, and I try to play generally as a newer player, or as a kind of just a player that's in and out when I actually get around to testing things and playing more. But where I found that I can do the most damage is, particularly in the auction, is to go pick up cheap auction horses. A lot of times people don't want to mess with them. I've picked up horses for $50 in the auction. I turn around and run them in a $4,000 claiming race. A lot of the horses I have in my test case stable, I think it is right now, if you go look at them, I can roll off particularly easy wins with auction horses. It's not sexy. Of course, to be honest with you, when I wrote the game, Larry will verify this with you. I love the claim races. I always have. I love the low level horses. And I've tried to make at least parts of the game very accessible to scoring points in those lower level races. And it's actually easier to go pick them up. So as long as you're willing to run through, especially the claiming ranks, you can't get attached to some of those horses. You just have to be willing to say, hey, he's going to run until somebody sees that he can win with him. And it's just like real horse racing in the claims. You have to find that area where somebody's not going to claim your horse, but he's going to be competitive and get seconds and thirds and wins. And you can get enough points to really do some damage. So the auction is what I really would tell a new player. If you're looking to pick up points, really accumulate points, that's the way you can do it. And if you're diligent about it, it's not difficult to take auction horses and turn them into relatively consistent earning claimers.
Okay, and I think we have time for just one more. Are you doing anything to try and attract new players?
Not yet, and that is by design. I would love to. I think that there is an opportunity there, and the new viewer, I think, is going to help us. But the reason I've never even tried to really push the game is because I've never had it in a situation that hopefully it's going to be at in 5 months or so, is that the back end was never stable enough. It was always a little bit in flux because of it took so much money to do it the right way. But with the cloud getting so cheap now, and if we were to suddenly get a large influx of players, I could literally just crank a button on the server, and next thing we know, we've got a lot more computing capability in the SQL server. So that wasn't available. We would be hard locked into the server, and I would literally have to lift and shift the entire thing, because either that or stop the game for a while, and you're limited to, when it was at the house, I think I was limited to 16 gig of memory. I would have had to get a new computer or move the hard drive. Now it's all in the cloud, so we're at 16 gig of memory on the server. I think it's 20 gig. We get double the amount of users. I can literally flip a switch. I could be up to 30, 40 gig in minutes. So those were the reasons that I've never tried in the past. I think once we get a nicer front end, again, thank you, Will, to where players can play more on their phone and a little more passively, have it where it really has an interface. When a new person comes in, it babies them through and walks them through and says, hey, you're a new user. Here's how you enter a race. Let's enter a race for the first time. Those are things I've never done before. And I think that those are things that I know need done before I really try to do a push. And once we get to that point where I feel comfortable and confident that everything is in place and we can accommodate a lot of new users, and I feel like the front end is decent looking enough and the viewer is good enough to handle it, yeah, I'd love to do that. And I think that's where, especially when I go back to work, I'll probably try to save a little more money. I saved some for the viewer this time, and I'll try to do an advertising push, and hopefully we can, help new players and keep this thing going for those 25 years I'm concerned about.
All right, well, I think we got to wrap up here, but I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you always, Donnie Baseball. It was great to talk to you both.
Well, thank you as always, guys, and just thanks everyone for playing. I don't know if I say that enough. I know sometimes I apologize, sometimes in email or in the Slack channel when you're reaching out to me, I hope I don't come off as surly. A lot of times I'm just in a hurry. So I'm usually knee deep in code. So if you catch me and you think I'm being a little surly, I apologize. I do appreciate everybody that plays, and I always have. And I think I try to be pretty happy with people if you catch me at a time that I'm not too busy. But yeah, I do want to say that, especially for people that have been around 20 some years, people that support the game, and even if you're a new player, this has been a lot of fun for me to do. So thanks for letting me be a game designer in my part-time for the last 25 years. I appreciate everybody out there. So just thanks.
Well, that's great. All right.